can trust me. I'm not going to give you any, I'm not going to mislead you. You know, I'm a lawman.
But they're going to have this fight, Chris.
No, they're not.
Well,
no, hold on. I'm not going to discuss that with you because I've just said the fight doesn't happen.
Nobody seems to mention it is also a factor. Conor Benn being the younger man at his prime, yeah?
I don't know if I would say unhealthy. I mean, he was extremely strict.
Chris Eubank Sr. has voiced strong objections to the proposed fight between his son, Chris Eubank Jr., and Conor Benn, mainly due to the agreed catch weight of 157 pounds. He argues that forcing his son, a natural middleweight or super middleweight, to cut to that weight is dangerously unhealthy. Eubank Sr. is especially concerned about the potential risks of severe dehydration and loss of physical strength, both of which could compromise his son's safety and performance in the ring. He made it clear that he does not support the bout under those conditions.
Fighters drastically cut weight.
Yeah. If he's fighting at 168, you know, you go ahead and do what, but you cannot come down to 160. I will not allow that. I will not allow it, or let me rephrase it. May the divine providence not allow that fight to ever happen. Okay, you are to stay at 168. And, you know, Matchroom, you know, let Conor go and have his illustrious career here in the United Kingdom and then in the United States because he beats them all. That's how fantastic I think he is. Yeah, I've always backed that young man. I've always backed you, Conor. I've always backed you. Okay, you're sensible. You know, if it's true that you've said things about me which are not complimentary, I don't mind that.
Chris Eubank Sr. believes the original cancellation of the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight was no coincidence, calling it divine intervention that prevented a dangerous matchup. As both a father and former world champion, he claimed personal responsibility for stopping the fight, emphasizing his ongoing commitment to his son's safety. While he respects Benn's talent, Eubank Sr. voiced concern over those managing Benn, accusing them of prioritizing profits over the fighter's health. His stance reflects a deep concern for both men's long-term well-being in such a high-risk.
Okay, you can trust me. Yeah, you've seen me get up in a fight I can't win and walk back into the fire. You can trust me. I'm not going to give you any, I'm not going to mislead you. You know, I'm a lawman.
But they're going to have this fight, Chris.
No, they're not.
Well,
no, hold on. I'm not going to discuss that with you because I've just said the fight doesn't happen.
You can't.
It's finished.
You can't stop it.
Again, I stopped it the first time. But you want me to qualify that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the fight was made, I said that fight is not happening. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything again up until the day of the fight, where it was cancelled the day before. So let's do the same thing again. Fine.
Chris Eubank Sr. has long taken a firm, guiding role in shaping his son Chris Eubank Jr.'s boxing career, focusing not only on skills but on discipline and philosophy. He reflects now with disappointment, criticizing the modern boxing scene for emphasizing hype over true skill. He's particularly frustrated with Jr.'s departure from the foundation he laid, blaming the influence of Roy Jones Jr. for diluting his son's style. Eubank Sr. sees this not just as a professional issue, but a personal mission to see his son return to what once made.
Would the public be interested in such a fight? Unfortunately, because promoters have been constantly rinsing the public with these fights, which actually are about names, not about abilities. So, you know, they would take an interest in this fight. I think it's okay for me to actually say this. I trained you. I brought you up in this boxing. I gave you an extraordinary start. That is based on your ability to box. The style that you had was...
Chris Eubank Jr. has spoken openly about the complex relationship he shares with his father. Chris Eubank Sr. raised under a strict, highly disciplined upbringing, Eubank Jr. often felt intense pressure to meet his father's high expectations, which shaped much of his early behavior and even contributed to struggles during school years. Though he recognizes the crucial role his father played in his boxing foundation, there's a clear tension. Eubank Jr. still battles with his father's continued involvement, longing for personal space and the chance to step out from under his shadow and define his own path.
I don't know if I would say unhealthy. I mean, he was extremely strict. I got away with nothing. If I messed up in school, if I didn't do a chore, if I got into a fight with my brothers, there was physical punishment, whether it was a belt, whether it was a cane, whether it was, a slap. Back then, in the 90s, that was how you disciplined your kids. So that is where my fear obviously originated from, having to deal with that. But again, that type of punishment and that type of upbringing, that type of strictness, it made me who I am today. It prepared me for the brutality of the sport of boxing.
Chris Eubank Sr. has never been shy about sharing his thoughts on his son's boxing career, and his reflections often carry a tone of disappointment. He strongly believes that Chris Eubank Jr. had the talent to become one of the sport's greats, but veered off course by ignoring the discipline and boxing philosophy his father had instilled in him. For Eubank Sr., it's not just about wins or titles. It's about unfulfilled potential. He feels that the foundation he laid was purpose-built for success, and that Eubank Jr.'s decision to forge his own path cost him the legacy he could have had.
Biggest thing you've been wrong about in the last year?
That's funny. My biological children. Move on.
What have you been wrong about with your biological
You asked me
children?
the question, I gave you the answer. That's private. Move on.
What's your biggest regret?
My son asked me, Sebastian, he said to me, Dad, we were in Marylebone. He said, Dad, let's go and smoke a spliff together and walk around the block. Let's walk around the block and smoke a spliff together. The greatest offer of my life I turned down because I was broke. I did something unspeakable.
What was the unspeakable thing you did?
Not your business. How dare you? If
You don't ask, you don't get.
You should know. It's called discernment. I've brought you close enough for you to understand. Be careful to question me, young man. Know your place.
With Chris Eubank Jr., marking the first time in British boxing that two sons of legendary rivals will face off. While he respects the legacy and understands the
As a trainer, somebody who's trained fighters for a long time, do you feel like that's going to be a big part of this fight? And do you feel like it's a bit dangerous for Chris?
Well, most definitely. If anyone should know, his father, Senior, he said his mind, and I second that opinion. That's a factor. The weight is a factor. The age, nobody seems to mention, is also a factor. Conor Benn being the younger man at his prime, yeah? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Benn, especially the way he fights like his father, very aggressive, yeah? And listen, if I'm gonna have to, I normally can't say to you, predict what I believe will happen. Christopher Jr. is the bigger man, granted. It depends. It depends. If he's been living the lifestyle, that's also a factor.